You have been in love before, and somewhere in the middle of it, at the height of it, when it felt most certain, most real, most like the thing the movies told you it would be, you had a thought you immediately dismissed. This cannot last. Not as a pessimistic prediction, as a recognition. Something in you knew, even then, that what you were feeling was not a permanent state, that the intensity had a ceiling, that the person you were seeing, the perfect, specific, irreplaceable person whose existence seemed to reorganize the meaning of your own, was partly a construction. You dismissed the thought, because the thought threatened something you needed to be true. Friedrich Nietzsche would not have let you dismiss it. He would have handed it back and told you to look at it directly. Because that thought, the one you have been trained to suppress as cynicism or fear, is the beginning of actually understanding what love is. And understanding what it is, he argued, does not destroy it. It makes it possible to build something that can actually survive. First, who was Nietzsche, and why does a 19th century philosopher have anything useful to say about your relationships? Friedrich Nietzsche was a German philosopher born in 1844 who produced some of the most psychologically acute observations in the history of Western thought. He was not primarily a philosopher of love, but he was, throughout his entire career, a philosopher of illusion, of the stories human beings tell themselves about themselves, where those stories come from, and what they cost the people who believe them without examining them. He was also personally devastated by love. His relationship with Lou Andreas Salome, a brilliant young intellectual he proposed to and who rejected him, left him, by his own account, in the deepest misery of his life. He did not write about love from a position of detached superiority. He wrote from the inside of the wound, which is precisely why what he wrote is worth listening to. Love as biological drive wearing cultural clothes. Nietzsche's first and most fundamental claim about romantic love is the one that produces the most immediate resistance. Romantic love. The specific experience of falling for a particular person, the conviction that they are uniquely and irreplaceably the one, the sense that your life before them was incomplete, is not a natural given. It is a cultural construction built on top of a biological drive. The biological drive is real. The longing for connection, for physical intimacy, for attachment. These are genuine features of human biology. They are not invented. They are not imaginary. But the specific narrative layered on top of that drive, the idea of the one, the idea of completion through another person, the idea of a love that transcends time and circumstance and the ordinary erosion of daily life, that narrative was constructed by literature, by religion, by the accumulated cultural mythology of romantic love that has been refined over centuries specifically to make the biological drive feel like a metaphysical event. There is not enough love and goodness in the world to permit giving any of it away to imaginary beings. Nietzsche wrote that in Human, All Too Human. He meant it about religious devotion. But the principle applies directly to the imaginary being at the center of romantic love. Not the actual person, but the idealized version your mind has constructed and placed in front of them. The promise of forever. Nietzsche's exact diagnosis. In his aphorisms on love and hate, Nietzsche wrote something so precise about romantic commitment that most people who encounter it feel a specific discomfort that they struggle to name. A promise to love someone forever means, as long as I love you, I will render unto you the actions of love. If I no longer love you, you will continue to receive the same actions from me, if for other motives. Thus the illusion remains in the minds of one's fellow men that the love is unchanged and still the same. Read that carefully. He is not saying that commitment is worthless. He is saying that the promise of forever is maintained not by the persistence of the original feeling, which he recognized changes, but by the substitution of other motives for the original one: habit, duty, fear, the sunk cost of shared history, the care that develops separately from the original passion. The illusion that the love is unchanged is preserved. The content underneath changes completely. This is not cynicism. This is accuracy. And the discomfort it produces is the discomfort of recognizing something you have known was true but have not been permitted to say directly, what you are actually in love with. Here is the part of Nietzsche's analysis that cuts deepest. When you fall in love with a specific person, the particular human being standing in front of you, you are not primarily responding to who they actually are. You are responding to who you have decided they are, To the interpretation your mind is constructed from the available evidence. To the projected version of that person that your needs, your history, your desires have assembled. He wants to be known deep down, abysmally deep down, before he is capable of being loved at all. He dares to let himself be fathomed. He feels that his beloved is fully in his possession only when she no longer deceives herself about him, when she loves him just as much for his devilry and hidden insatiability as for his graciousness, patience, and spirituality. Nietzsche wrote that in Beyond Good and Evil. He was describing the rare and demanding thing. The love that persists after the projection has been replaced by the actual person. The love that survives the revelation of what someone actually is rather than what you needed them to be. Most love does not survive that revelation. Not because the love was false, because the projection was the love. And the actual person, arriving in full complexity and contradiction, is different from the projection in ways that the original feeling was not built to accommodate. This is not a failure of the people involved. It is the predictable consequence of a cultural framework that teaches people to fall in love with their own idealization of another person, and then expect the feeling to persist when the idealization meets reality. The idealization mechanism. How it works inside you. The process Nietzsche was describing has been confirmed repeatedly by psychology. The early stage of romantic love involves a consistent distortion of perception. The qualities of the loved person that align with your needs and desires are amplified. The qualities that do not are minimized or simply not seen. This is not weakness. It is not naivety. It is how the mechanism operates. The lover builds the castles of romance as if they would last forever, knowing full well they are fragile, transitory structures. The question Nietzsche was asking is not whether the castle should be built. He was asking whether it should be built on a foundation of illusion, or on something more honest and therefore more durable. Because the castle built on illusion is spectacular at first, and it collapses the moment the illusion meets friction. Why this is not cynicism, and what Nietzsche actually believed about love. This is the point where most people assume the argument ends in nihilism about love. That if romantic love is partly constructed, partly projection, partly cultural narrative, then it is meaningless. Then it is not worth pursuing. Then the appropriate response is detachment. Nietzsche did not conclude that. Whatever is done for love always occurs beyond good and evil. He wrote that in Beyond Good and Evil. It is one of the most direct statements of his actual position on love, which is not that love is false, but that love at its most genuine transcends the ordinary moral calculations that govern most human behavior. It is true. We love life not because we are used to living, but because we are used to loving. He was not attacking love. He was attacking the specific lie that has been layered on top of it. The lie that love is effortless, that real love requires no construction, that if you have to work at it, it is not real, that the feeling that arrives spontaneously at the beginning is the same thing as the commitment that sustains a life. These are lies, and they produce, consistently and predictably, people who abandon relationships the moment the projection meets the actual person, because they have been taught that the fading of the initial feeling means the love has ended. It has not ended. The illusion has ended, which is the beginning of the possibility of something real. The difference between illusion and construction. Nietzsche was making a distinction that most people collapse. Illusion is what happens to you. It is the automatic projection of your needs and desires onto another person. It is not chosen. It is not built. It arrives and it feels like revelation. Construction is what you choose to do after the illusion has cleared. It is the deliberate decision to know the actual person, in their full complexity and contradiction, and to build something with them that the illusion could not support because the illusion was not based on them. The difference between a relationship that ends when the projection meets reality and a relationship that survives that meeting and becomes something more durable is whether both people are willing to do the construction after the illusion ends. Most people are not, because they have been taught that the ending of the illusion is the ending of the love, and so they leave, in search of the next illusion, which will also end, in search of the next one after that. Nietzsche called this the eternal return of the same mistake, not in those words about love specifically, but the pattern is identical. How to love without the lie. The practical implication of everything Nietzsche identified is simpler than it sounds. Stop waiting for love to be effortless. Stop treating the difficulty of knowing another person as evidence that the wrong person was chosen. Stop confusing the ending of the initial projection with the ending of the relationship. The actual person, the one behind the projection, the one who is neither the idealized version you fell for nor the disappointing version that emerged when the idealization faded, is the one worth knowing. And knowing them is not something that happens to you. It is something you choose to do. Throw off your discontent about your nature. Forgive yourself your own self. You have it in your power to merge everything you have lived through, false starts, errors, delusions, passions, your loves and your hopes, into your goal with nothing left over. He wrote that in Human, All Too Human. He was not writing about love specifically. He was writing about the project of becoming genuinely yourself, which is also, he argued, the only basis on which genuine love is possible. You cannot genuinely love another person from behind a projection. The projection loves the projection. The person loves the person. The question Nietzsche leaves you with: in the relationships that matter to you right now, the ones you are in, the ones you want, the ones you have lost, are you responding to the actual person or to the construction you have built around them? And if the construction has started to crack, if the actual person has begun to emerge in ways that are different from the version you fell for, are you willing to stay for the construction that becomes possible on the other side of that? That question is not romantic in the conventional sense. It is more demanding than romance. It requires a willingness to see clearly rather than feel comfortably. But the love that survives clear seeing, the love that is built rather than projected, is the only kind that Nietzsche believed was actually worth the name. Everything else, he said, is a beautiful lie that most people spend their lives defending because the truth would require them to do something harder. He was right, and you already know it. If this gave you something useful, subscribe. Philosophy every week. No motivation, no fluff, just what actually holds up.